Hi there, this is Dr. Embody. I got a bit of a cold today, so hopefully my voice will come through okay. Um, Today, for this week's project, we're gonna play the game Rock Paper Scissors. If you haven't seen it before, uh, two people make a hand movement each, indicating a symbol for either rock, paper, or scissors. There's simple rules described in the project. If you've never seen it, here's a quick little video, two people doing it. They shake, boom, one wins. Um, so it's as simple a game as that. What you're going to do in your project, and I'm actually not going to show you any code, so I'm not going to show this in Spider. I'm just going to do it in a terminal window. So I can start my program, and I have a bunch of versions of this. And what you do is you play the game, and so you enter a command. We're simulating choosing a rock, paper, or scissors or cue to pick. So if I choose rock, then notice here how we can see that the user, me, chose R, and then the computer chose a P. How did the computer choose that? Well, we've used random number generators before. They're going to generate a random number, a 1, 2, or 3, convert that into an R, an S, or a P, and then you, according to the what we specify in the project, and so then the computer chooses that, and then we decide, okay, paper wins over rock according to the rules, and so the computer wins that round. And so now if this time I chose paper, turns out the computer also chose paper, so that's a tie, and we keep going around until we type a cue, and we have to be able to handle say, okay, if I enter an X, no, that's not one of the valid ones, an X. And we even, just to make it easier, the only valid ones are lowercase, not even an uppercase P will work here, and an uppercase Q won't quit it. We'll learn how to do that in the next week. So that's pretty much how the game goes. And what you want to do is you want to develop this in pieces. So the very first thing I did is I wrote, and by pieces. Okay, so this is once again divide and conquer, right? Let's simplify this down so I'm working with just a simpler problem than the whole project. Get that piece working and then add on to it. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you what each of mine does, and still leaving it to you to do this. So the very first one that I did, which I called version 1, all it does is it asks for a letter, and it will keep going around until I give it a correct one. So if I give it a capital X, it says, no, that's no good. Capital P, no, that's no good. If I gave it a, something like a Z, it says, no, that's no good. Now, if I give it a proper letter, the R, P, S, or Q, then it stops. The loop stops. That's all that does. And so it's about 4 or 5 lines of code, depending on how you write it. Get that working first. Now you know how to do the input so that it checks to see that you have that you have the right letter. And because you don't know how many times you're doing this will be a while loop, right? And in fact, you probably want to do a while true, and then use a break if so. While true, if you get the right character, break out of the loop, otherwise print an error message. All right, so once I got that working, then the main part of the loop, so that was the input. Let me have a little loop that does the input. Then the main part of the loop keeps going around until we enter a cue. So I did that as a separate program. All right, and so again, I keep, and there's no error checking here at all. In fact, I can put in an X. I didn't put the error checking in this part. This thing keeps going around until I do a lowercase q, and then we're done. So I keep looping until, so while my input is not a Q, I keep looping. All right, so I got that. Then I put the two together. That's my version 3. And so, with my version 3, it combines those two. So I can put, if I put in a bad letter, it says, no, that's not a good. I put in a good one. That's okay. I entered a P. My loop just has a simple print statement in there. And anytime I enter a bad letter, it just keeps, the input will be checked, and then any good ones that I put in, it keeps going around and around until I give it a lowercase q, and then it stops. So now I've got all my looping in there done and correct. And bunch of code in there, but now I've got the sort of the main part of my looping correct. Now I can go and say, all right, I got the computer play. What do I do? Oh, I show you how to get a random integer. You have to then take that integer, convert it to a character. Oh, if I see the letter, if my random number generator gives me a 1, then that means the computer's command is whatever it is, rock, if I remember whatever we specified that to be. And with that in hand, you can add that to what you have, still have the error checking in there, but now if I choose a correct letter, such as R for rock, you see that the computer now has gone and made a choice. Now I haven't decided who won that. All I've done is, the computer made a choice and we printed it. And I keep going on making choices until and the computer makes a choice, and then I quit. So I've taken another step. Now I've got all my looping, and now the computer makes a choice. We don't do anything with the choice. We just made a choice. Now the next thing to do is say, okay, so how do I decide if they win? Well, there's a set of rules. You have, rock wins over scissors. Scissors cuts paper, but paper wraps rock, and so on. So now you got a set of rules. So now you know that you're getting a user and a computer choice. Now write an if statement that decides who wins, and that's when and I also put in some introductory stuff because I'm just getting a little further along here. So now if I put in a value, not only is the computer making a choice, but according to the rules, we can say who won that. My error checking is still in there. Let me choose scissors. All right, I chose scissors, the computer chose paper, and so I won this one, and so on. Keep making choices until I hit Q, and now I've got it playing the game. And then there's the final step where you have to collect some statistics. But I got the game working. Now I can start counting. Oh, how many times were there? How many times did the computer win? How many times did the user win? And so on. Notice how I used the divide and conquer approach here. Did this in little pieces and get started on it early. Get the pieces working. Frankly, I think it was one I made one to check for the input and then one for the driving loop so it would stop with the cue. It's kind of the messiest part of this, I thought, was when I put those two together. So it's important to do that in pieces. Get those pieces working, and then you can put it all, you can gradually build your project. And I will stop there. Good luck.